Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a Google form. You can use Google Forms a lot of different ways in your classroom. Anytime that you might need to gather information from students or parents or even from other staff members, a Google form is going to easily organize it for you. You can get creative with it. You can replace paper assignments with a Google form. You can do things like collect your lunch choice in the morning or have your kids do a reflection on a substitute after you've been out. Anything that you can think of can be done on a Google form. So you're going to start out in your Google Drive and click on New and then go to Google Forms. Now you can title it one of two places and it's going to automatically pop up in the other place when you click on it. So we're going to do a sample parent questionnaire. And if I type up here in the form title, then it will automatically pop in to the Drive title. You can do a form description if you want to give more specific instructions or maybe a background on why you're creating this form. You don't have to. If you leave it blank, it's not going to look weird. Now, over here on the right, you've got your toolbar. This is where you're going to add questions. You can add descriptions or titles to different sections. You can add pictures, videos, and you can get even a little bit more complicated and add different sections and pages, but we're going to keep it pretty simple today. Now with everything in Google Drive, everything is going to save as you go. So to add the first question, you would just click on it, and we're going to go ahead and start with something simple like student's name. When I'm giving a survey or form, I like to require the student's name. If you click this little button down here, it's going to require the person to complete this question before they submit the form. So I usually like to do student's name required or person's name required so that it doesn't get too confusing with emails or student IDs. Now, I don't want this to be multiple choice. I want the person to be able to type in the name. So I'm going to come over here and I can click the different types of questions I want to choose. So for this one, I want them to be able to just type a short little answer. So we're going to choose a short answer. Now I can then come over here and add another question of any other type. Let's say I want them to tell me a little bit about their child. I want them to be able to type more than just a sentence. So I'm going to choose a paragraph answer, and that's going to give them a lot longer or a lot larger space to type their response in. I can add a question that is multiple choice, like possibly, do you have internet access? I'm going to add each option. I'm going to come over here and hover over the options and type the responses that I'm expecting. If you choose the add other, it's going to allow them to type in their own response. Now, if I want them to be able to give me multiple answers on a question, I can choose checkboxes. Something like, when are you available to volunteer? Again, you hover over to change each response. And on a question like this, they're going to be able to select as many as they'd like. Once you're done adding the questions, you can get creative and add some pictures. You can add a video. You can play around with it. You can even change the order of your questions. Now, anything in Google, when you hover over something and see those little dots on it, that's where you will click to reposition something. So let's say I want to put volunteering right after student name. I just click and drag, and it's going to automatically go to where I let go of my mouse. So when I'm done playing with the questions and I'm ready to format it and personalize it, I can come up here to the top and click on the little color palette to change the background. I can choose a color scheme, or I can get more creative and click on the little picture icon and choose a different background. Some of the other options we have are going to be up here in this little settings gear. Now, if you were sending this out to maybe other staff members or students, you would want to restrict this to Round Rock ISD users only. This one is a parent questionnaire, so we definitely don't want to restrict it to Round Rock ISD users only. If I was sending it to somebody like a staff member, I could automatically collect their email address so that I don't have to worry about putting a question in about their name. But we're not doing that today. Now, you can limit it to one response per person. That would be if you emailed the form, they could only get into the form once. You can give them the option to edit after they submit. I like to do this one for when I'm giving a student an assignment in Google Forms, because if that student has not finished, they can then edit their response later on and come back and finish their work. You can allow them to see a summary of responses after they're finished. You can allow it to show them a progress bar. This is if you have multiple pages or sections. You can even shuffle the question order if you're doing something fun like a survey and you don't necessarily need the questions in a specific order. Now, for our parent questionnaire, I'm probably only going to have a couple of computers set up. So I want the parents to be able to stand in line, and after one parent submits it, I want the next parent to be able to submit it as well. So if I click show links to submit another response, when they submit it, it'll say your response has been recorded, and then it'll give them an option to submit another response so that the next person in line could do that one. There are some other options up here if you want to play around with this later on. When you're making a quiz or an assignment, you can check these things out. But for today, we're going to keep it simple. So when you're finished playing around, you can preview it by clicking on the little eyeball, and that's going to show you what the person filling out the form is going to see. So this is what they would see. We can enter a sample so that we can see the responses. And you will see it gives you the option to submit another response so that somebody can come after me and complete the form. Now, if you'll notice, when I just did the preview, it lets me complete the survey, but it's got this little pencil over here. I don't want the parents or anybody taking the survey to be able to edit the form. So there's a little trick you can do to not give somebody editing access, but allow them to take the survey. So over here in the little send button, you can get a link to take them to the form. This little icon right here is for link, and you would select it. Control-C is copy. And we're going to use a feature called Go Incognito. So when you're in Chrome, you've got a little box that has your name on it. If you click on that, it gives you the option to go incognito. That kind of lets you create a mask to what you're doing. So I can then paste the URL here, Control-V, and it'll take me to that form, but I won't be signed into Chrome in this window, and then no editing rights over here. So if I want to look at my responses, I have two tabs up here. The first tab is for the questions or the form that you're creating, and the second tab is for the responses that you collect. And you have an option. You can look at a summary of all the responses. If I had filled this out multiple times, or you have already had several people take your survey or your questionnaire, it's going to list all of the responses right here for each question. It'll even give you a fancy little graph. If I wanted to look at individual responses one by one, I would click on individual, and then it's going to give me exactly what that person filled out on their form. And you also have the option to print your results, and you have the option to create a spreadsheet of your results. So if you click create a spreadsheet, it's going to create a spreadsheet in your Google Drive, and it's going to organize the information for you there. It'll list each question, column by column, and then you can have a little bit easier view of the information.